So this leaves with two big questions right now. What skills do people need to reach their full potential today and tomorrow? And what are the best ways to teach these skills? Now here's some big trends we could look at for answers, right? National standards. Because I hope national standards are taken from, real trends in labor, economy, policy. What does policy tell us about this stuff? Research. Other fields, labor studies, economics, sociology, and then our everyday experiences. Now here are three trends that come throughout all of that work. They have different terms and different expressions, but here are three we're going to focus on. Do-it-yourself media. What that means is that we now have the power on our laptops that previously only media conglomerates had. We need to do something with that. Remix. Well, what does that mean? Is that there's so much information out there, we need to process it, reorganize it, synthesize it, and make new stuff out of it. And participatory culture. What does that mean? That today we are consumers and creators of information, from podcasting to YouTube videos to Twitter to all types of political, social, and cultural institutions. People are creating media and creating culture. Students and citizens have to do work on all three of these areas effectively and ethically. If you take a look at what research tells us, a shift in the last 60 years, a focus in policy and education, from reading, which is important, but it's an internal and cognitive process. It happens inside of our head. To the 70s, where people like the term and concept of literacy. It's reading, writing, speaking, but also as related to society and economy, when there was a big spike in unemployment in the 70s. Policymakers, researchers correlated that rise with people's poor reading and writing skills. So literacy became a sort of catch-all phrase for the relationship between social problems and illiteracy and poor reading and writing. It's what we have today, new literacies or 21st century literacies. That's the combination of cognitive, social, technical skills tied to society and globalization. First, DIY media, as I said before, 30 years ago, the ability to use a word processor on a computer was thought to be a small segment of the population. Today, it's sort of entry-level stuff, right? That is what media manipulation is today. Do-it-yourself media, editing video, editing audio, programming, will be the next word processing. 40 years ago, you needed a sound studio or a recording studio, a video studio, a TV studio to make media. Today, you need a laptop computer. All of this DIY media trend correlates to that bigger trend that started basically with the Scans report on student-centered learning. We're going to look at math and engineering, educational applications to get this DIY spirit into schools and kids with Scratch. It's a computer program that takes away all the sort of tedious of programming and emphasizes the core skills and math and engineering aspects of computer programming. You're actually going to do two projects with that. You're going to make an original project based on tutorial, and then you're going to revise. You're going to make an original game. Well, you're going to revise the game of Pong, I should say. We're going to look at how it affects language and literature. Actually, that's what I'm doing right now, looking at how culture and language skills change with technology. We're going to look at remix, how this idea of taking different pieces of culture, pictures, images, songs, can be a very important and crucial skill to the 21st century economy. We're going to look at contemporary practices of remix, from music to politics to entertainment to industry to science, and see how we can bring that into school in powerful ways. If you look at remix, it's been something that's gone on in music for the last 500 years, right? I mean, The Beatles stole from Bo Diddley, got stolen from the Rolling Stones, who influenced Red Hot Chili Peppers, who influenced, it goes on, how all musicians take and revise and remix their influences. You see it in martial arts, how Kung Fu became karate, then Korea took it and made Taekwondo. Today we have mixed martial arts, how it infiltrates and changes in television in different countries. We can see it in food. If you look at just one example is Chinese food. If you look at how different cultures even mix Chinese food, hip-hop chow, Chinese Southern American food, Korean Chinese food, Peruvian Chinese food. Actually, over here is an advertising restaurant that I would highly recommend. Asa de Cuba, which is Chinese and Cuban fusion food. And you can see this from our macaroni, our sauces, to the way we make tiramisu. You can also see it in technological innovations of the last 3,000 years. For example, the printing press. If you take Gutenberg took the wine press, right? There's no coincidence he came from a wine-producing region of Germany. A movable type, wine press was invented 1st century AD, movable type to 10th century AD, and he put them together. He's basically made a hybrid invention, and the printing press came along. Now, this is not taking away his technical expertise and all of the ideas and thoughts he did to combine these two ideas, but as Stephen Johnson says, most major inventions are more bricolage than breakthrough. Here's an idea from the last 10 years. It's called Design That Matters. This is a company, an organization that tries to help infant mortality in the developing world. They would give incubators to developing nations in Africa and South America, but they noticed that the incubators would break and people there didn't have the know-how or the equipment to fix them. So what they did was they took the idea, the mechanics of a car engine, and made a neonatal incubator from a car engine. And they did this and they found it much more successful because the people in these developing nations had the skills and the equipment and the distribution network to repair these incubators. So it was a really successful project. It has that sort of remix idea behind it. Another idea, another remixer, is Steve Jobs. There's a great article by Malcolm Gladwell in New Yorker last year that chronicled Steve Jobs as the ultimate remixer. How his idea for the tablet computer came from the Windows tablet. And he looked at that and said, well, I can improve it with these three things. First of all, no stylus. And then the MP3 player, how MP3s were developed well before the iPod, but Steve Jobs took that idea and remastered it, remixed it with sort of Apple-ish ideas. And again, you can look at remix as a lens throughout history, from Michelangelo and other painters who take stories and then add sort of Renaissance humanism to it, to all the people who have taken stories from Homer, to scientists like Galileo, took previous work and then just built on it and revised it and tweaked it, as well as great political philosophers and political documents, such as the Declaration of Independence, a highly original document, no doubt, but having lines verbatim from John Locke in it.